in the bustling heart of Enugu, where yellow buses honked and women sold roasted corn by the roadside, there stood a small barber shop named Sharp Looks. It wasn't a big place, just 2 mirrors, 2 rusty fans, and a barber's chair that squeaked whenever someone sat on it. But the man who owned it, Cheek, was known all over the street for one thing: his good heart. One hot afternoon, as the sun burned like fire over the red earth, a man stood quietly in front of the shop. His clothes were torn, his shoes had long given up the fight with the road, and his hair was a thick bush of neglect. He looked like someone life had forgotten. Chike noticed him. "Brother, you want Barb?" he asked kindly, stepping out of the shop. The man lowered his eyes, ashamed. "My name is Emeka," he said softly. "I have no money, but I have an interview tomorrow. If only I could look neat, maybe they will take me." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Some boys nearby laughed, whispering that the man was wasting his time. But Chiki's heart softened. "Enter," he said firmly. "No man we want better him life go carry bushy head." So, Emeka sat on the squeaky chair, and Cheek worked on him with patience. The clippers buzzed, hair fell in piles, and soon the tired face that had been hidden beneath the overgrowth emerged. When he finished, Cheeky reached into the drawer, pulled it, and handed it over. "Take. No go-face interview like this. You fit get the work with this one," he said with a smile. The man's hands trembled as he reached into his pocket and brought out a wrinkled 200 naira note. "Now the only money way remain with me," he said, tears already burning his eyes. "At least let me give you something." Chike shook his head firmly and pushed the note back into his hand. "Keep your money, my brother. You needn't pass me. At least use it to transport yourself to the interview." Tears filled Emeka's eyes. He tried to speak, but no words came. He left with only one promise: "One day, I will repay you." Emeka walked into a tall glass building that towered over the city, a major real estate enterprise. His heart pounded. He could feel sweat on his palms as he clutched his file. He whispered a silent prayer. "God, let this be my second chance." The interview panel looked him over, asked their questions, and Emeka spoke with the confidence he thought he had lost. At the end, they exchanged glances and nodded. "Young man," the chairman said, "we like your experience. You are accepted." Emeka almost fell on his knees. He had a job. But Emeka's life had not always been this way. Once upon a time, he was a big businessman. He drove fine cars, lived in a spacious house, and even had employees under him. People called him chairman, but in his hunger to expand, he trusted the wrong person, a smooth-talking fraudster who promised him international connections. Emeka invested his entire life savings. One morning, the fraudster disappeared. Along with all the money, the empire crumbled. Debts swallowed him. His house was seized. Friends abandoned him. The proud man became a shadow of himself, walking the streets aimlessly, sleeping under kiosks, and bathing by broken taps. Depression nearly consumed him. He even thought of ending his life. But one day, he stumbled into a cyber cafe, saw a vacancy for a real estate firm, and with shaky hands, typed an application. That was how he ended up in front of Cheeky's shop. Meanwhile, Cheek was a different kind of man. He was no rich person, but he lived with quiet dignity. Every day, he hustled in his shop, while his wife Ngozi roasted and sold groundnuts and plantain chips. Their son Somto would run around, sometimes helping, sometimes disturbing. "Papa," Samto once asked, "why do we not have a big car like Uncle Efiani down the road?" Chaiki smiled and carried his son on his lap. "My son, car is not what makes a man. Contentment is. A kind heart is better than gold. One day you will understand." Ngozi, listening, nodded in agreement. She knew her husband might not have riches, but he carried riches of the heart. When Emeka first entered the real estate firm, he was like a fish thrown into new waters. He knew nothing about square footage, mortgages, or land surveys, but he knew how to learn. Every evening, when others went home, he stayed behind, reading files, studying maps, listening closely to the senior agents. He followed them to site inspections, wrote down every word, and even volunteered to do the jobs others avoided. Soon, people began to notice him. "This young man is serious," they would whisper. His supervisors tested him with small clients, and Emeka sold their houses with charm and patience. He knew how to listen to people's dreams and match them to the right homes. Within months, clients requested him by name. "Call that tall young man Emeka," they would say. "He understands people." Before long, recommendations poured in. Families trusted him. Big investors shook his hand. His confidence, once broken on the streets, began to return. Years rolled by, and Emeka climbed the ladder until he was no longer just an employee. He was the founder of his own company. Emeka and Holmes Realty became a household name. He bought his own houses, hired dozens of young men and women, and drove the kind of cars he once lost. Emeka was back on his feet. Yet he never forgot the squeaky chair of sharp looks, or the man who had once given him dignity when he had nothing. Meanwhile, life for Chaik began to shift like dry leaves in Harmattan wind. One morning, trucks with bulldozers rolled onto Okpara Avenue. Men in reflective jackets pointed at his small barber shop. "Oga, move your things. Government say this road is federal property. The shop must go." Before Chika could protest, the walls of sharp looks crumbled under the iron jaws of the machine. Dust filled the air. The neighbors watched silently. By evening, nothing was left but rubble. Chike stood there, his heart heavy, years of sweat gone in a single day. But he refused to break. "Man way get hand no go beg," he told himself. The very next week, Chike found an old pump and set himself up by the roadside as a vulcanizer, fixing punctured tires and pumping air for motorists. His hands grew black with grease, but his spirit stayed strong. His wife, Ngozi, still sold her roasted groundnuts, though now she also added sachet water to make ends meet. Their son, Samto, had grown into a tall, wiry teenager. After school, he would hawk cold water on the streets, weaving between cars and shouting, "Pure water, pure water." The boy hated it sometimes, but Chiki would remind him gently, "My son, no condition is permanent. Life is like a wheel. It turns. What matters is that we walk with contentment, not envy." And so, father and son hustled side by side, navigating the rough world with dignity. They had little, but they still had hope. Years had passed like water flowing through a stream. Emeka's life had climbed to heights he once thought impossible. He now owned fleets of cars, lands across Nigeria, and his company name, Emeka and Holmes Realty, was sung in real estate circles like a praise song. But wealth, like the Harmattan wind, always stirred dust. Competitors envied him. Spiritual arrows were fired at him, and plots were woven in darkness. But Emeka was a man of faith. Every morning he prayed with tears. Every evening he gave freely to widows and orphans. Those who tried to bring him down found their traps turning against themselves. Yet one wound remained in his heart. Cheek, the barber, he had promised to return, to repay the man who once shaved not just his hair, but his shame. But when he finally found time to return to Akbara Avenue, the barbershop was gone. In its place stood smooth tarred road and new gutters. He asked passers-by, he asked shop owners, he asked an old woman who roasted corn nearby. The answer was always the same. Government destroy AM. Dem say na Federal Road. The man come out with him family. Nobody sabi where he go. Emeka walked back to his car with a heavy heart. His driver tried to console him, but he felt the sting of guilt. If only I had come earlier, maybe I would have found him. That night, Emeka could not sleep. He saw Chiki's face in his dreams, heard the buzz of the clippers, saw again the folded shirt that had restored his dignity. He woke with tears in his eyes. From that day, he vowed, if I cannot find Chiki, then I will honor him by helping others like him. So, Emeka became a fountain of kindness. He paid school fees for strangers, gave jobs to the jobless, and built houses for widows. Yet, in the secret corner of his heart, he still prayed, Lord, let me find Cheek the barber before I leave this earth. One fateful morning, years later, Emeka traveled with his team to a rural community for a major estate inspection. The land was vast and green, but the narrow roads were rough. His convoy moved carefully until suddenly, bam! His car lost control, swerved into a ditch, and rolled before coming to a halt. People screamed. Villagers rushed out. Medics hurried to check on him. Blood trickled from his forehead, but by some miracle, he was alive. His only wound, all 4 tires, were punctured badly. While the medics fussed and mechanics argued about the damage, a tall, lean vulcanizer pushed his handcart forward. His clothes were dusty, his hands blackened by grease, but his eyes shone with calm determination. Make I check Oga, the man said, bending to the tires. As he worked, he kept murmuring, thank God say nothing bad happened to the driver. Emeka, sitting on a stretcher nearby, paused. Something about the man's voice stirred his memory. He tilted his head, listening carefully. Emeka's heart skipped. That voice, he knew it. He sat up suddenly. Hello, sir. Your voice and face looks familiar. Do I know you? The man chuckled shyly. Not true, sir. You fit sabi me from that junction way? At a pump tire? No. Emeka cut him off, his eyes glistening. He stood to his feet, ignoring the medic's protests. His voice cracked with emotion. Not tires, not junction. Barber, Chike the barber. The vulcanizer froze, his spanner slipping from his hand. Slowly, he looked up, eyes wide with disbelief. Yes, I've been day barb hair before, but government scatter my shop, no compensation. Now why I start pumping tire? His voice broke. Do you remember me? Emeka asked, his heart beating fast. Cheek blinked hard, confusion clouding his face. Sir, I no remember. You look like rich man. And me? I never barb any rich man before. Emeka laughed through his tears, shaking his head. Rich man? It was me, the broken man you helped. And today, I stand because of that kindness. Emeka's vision blurred with tears. He staggered forward and grabbed him. Cheek, my Cheek, you don't remember me. Almost 18 years ago, I walked into your shop like a beggar. You cut my hair for free. You gave me a shirt. You told me to go to my interview. I gave you 200 naira, but you rejected it. Said I should use it for transport to the interview. Chike, I got that job. You gave me back my life. Chike's mouth fell open. His knees buckled, and he sank to the ground, tears streaming down his cheeks. He covered his face with his greasy hands. God, God, now you do this one. Emeka knelt beside him, holding him tightly. Both men wept, their tears mingling like rivers, reunited after long years apart. Villagers stood in silence, touched by the strange reunion. Someone whispered, "See as God they answer prayer. Kindness no day die." And in that dusty roadside, two destinies finally found each other again. The accident became the seed of a miracle. Word spread quickly across the village that a rich estate owner had survived a ghastly crash and found the man who once lifted him from the dust of shame. By evening, the story danced on the lips of everyone. Nahim Barber Savim before. See how God joined them again. Emeka refused to leave that roadside until he had spoken heart to heart with Chike. He insisted the medics wait. He sent his escorts away. He and Chike sat on an old wooden bench under a mango tree, talking like long-lost brothers. "Chike," Emeka said, holding his hand firmly, "for years I searched for you. I went back to Akpara Avenue, but your shop was gone. I blamed myself, but now I see God kept you for me to find at the right time." Chike wiped his eyes, shaking his head. "Oga, I no even know wetin to talk. See me wey dey pump tire for survival? You dey call me blessing. Life just dey rough. My son dey hawk water after school. My wife dey sell groundnut. Sometimes I feel say I failed him." Emeka's heart broke at those words. He placed his hand on Chike's shoulder. "No, my brother, you did not fail. You gave me a life when I had nothing. Today, let me give you back what you gave me." The very next week, Emeka returned with his convoy, not just to thank Chike, but to change his destiny. He drove straight to Chike's little rented house, where Ngozi and Somto received him with wide eyes. Emeka entered like family, not like a stranger. "Madam," he said respectfully to Ngozi, "years ago, your husband gave me a shirt. Today, I have come to clothe your family with honor." Then, right there in their small sitting room, Emeka announced his plans. He bought Chike a brand new barbershop in a prime location, fully furnished with modern equipment. Big mirrors, swivel chairs, air conditioning, and even a waiting lounge. He opened a secondary business in Chike's name, a vulcanizing and auto service center, so his roadside hustle would grow into a company. He sponsored Somto's education in one of the best schools, telling him, "You will never hawk water again. Your father gave me dignity. I will give you opportunity." And he gave Ngozi capital to expand her trading business into a proper provisions store. The family wept. Chike fell to his knees, but Emeka lifted him up quickly. "Don't kneel for me, my brother. I only returned what you sowed. This is not payment. It is harvest. Kindness always comes back home." Months later, the grand opening of Sharp Look's unisex salon took place in the city center. The once squeaky chair was replaced with shining new equipment, and a big banner read, "Owned by Mr. Chike, where kindness lives." Customers flooded in, curious about the man behind the name, and whenever anyone asked about his story, Chike would smile and say, "Once upon a time, a poor man entered my shop. I gave him a haircut and a shirt. Today, that man gave me back my life. My people, never despise kindness. What leaves your hand may leave your pocket, but it will never leave your destiny." Emeka and Chike's families became inseparable. They dined together, prayed together, and celebrated together. To outsiders, it was a tale too good to be true. But to those who understood, it was proof of an ancient truth. Kindness is like a seed. You may forget where you planted it, but one day it will grow into a tree that will shade your life. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Remember to subscribe for more.